we'll get started in just about 1 minute, okay?
Yep. Thank you.
Make sure we keep the doorways a little bit clear, please. I'm going to bring folks right through here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jim Ryan, and I'm the president of the University of Virginia. This is a sad, shocking, and tragic day for our UVA community. I will describe briefly what we know at this point and then turn things over to Chief Longo. But before I do that, let me say how deeply sorry I am for the victims and for their family and friends. So in terms of what we know, as I mentioned in an email we sent out early this morning, last night at approximately 10:30 p.m., University Police responded to a call of shots fired in the Culbreth parking garage area. The suspected shooter is UVA student Christopher Darnell Jones, Jr. Upon arrival at the scene, University Police encountered several victims of gunshot wounds. The shootings occurred on a bus full of students returning from a field trip. 3 of the victims did not survive. They were Devin Chandler, a second year from Virginia Beach, Virginia, Lavelle Davis, a third-year student from Ridgeville, South Carolina, and Deshaun Perry, a fourth-year student from Miami, Florida. All 3 were members of the football team. 2 other students were wounded and are being treated for injuries at the UVA Medical Center. 1 is in good condition, 1 is in critical condition. In order to protect their privacy, we are not releasing their names at this moment. The families of all the victims have been notified, and the university is providing any and every available assistance. I have spoken with 4 of the families, and I spoke directly to the student who is in good condition. Law enforcement, including university police, local law enforcement agencies, and Virginia State Police, continue their search for the suspect and will not stop until he is found. They have, however, lifted the shelter-in-place order following an exhaustive building-by-building search of grounds and are confident that the suspect has left the area. Classes and all extracurricular activities have been canceled for today, including the men's basketball game scheduled for this evening. Although we do not yet have a full understanding of the motive and circumstances surrounding these events, police are investigating as we speak. We will continue to keep the community notified of developments via our emergency alert system and further community-wide emails. I'm grateful to law enforcement for their response and to our community for facilitating their work with what I realize has been a long shelter-in-place order. This is an unimaginably sad day for our community. The entire university community is grieving this morning. My heart is broken for the victims and their families and for all those who knew and loved them, and they are all in my prayers. As I've said before, when I see our students, I see my own kids. And I cannot imagine anything worse for a parent than to lose a child. Please know we will do everything we can to honor their lives, and will come together soon as a community to mourn these losses. In the meantime, if you need help, especially our students, please don't hesitate to reach out to the resources listed in the email I sent early this morning. And please reach out to each other and lend each other an ear and a shoulder, even if virtually. This is an extraordinarily difficult day for our community, and we need to comfort and support each other and those closest to the victims of this horrendous shooting. Thank you, and now I'd like to turn it over to Chief Longo.
Mr. President Ryan, thank all of you for assembling in here this afternoon and giving us the opportunity to tell what happened over the last several hours and perhaps even answer some of your questions. I'll say from the very beginning, there will be questions that will have no answers. And it's not because I don't want to tell you, it's because we just don't know. So I hope you'll be patient with that and trust that when we do know, you'll know. This has been an incredibly long evening, very tragic circumstances for our university community, for the city of Charlottesville, the county of Albemarle, the Commonwealth. It's especially tragic for a small number of families who we've had to break some really bad news to. And some of you tried to reach out throughout the evening. We didn't take your calls. I apologize for that. One or more of you might even got hung up on in the midst of chaos, and so I apologize for that as well. When this call came out just after 10 o'clock last night, about 10:16, and we knew the circumstances, we immediately initiated an emergency alert. Everyone with a UVA email address and a cell phone number that we have access to gets that alert, and that alert is sent out by our Office of Emergency Management. It's updated every 15 minutes, which is as much information as we can provide. And since 10:16 up until just about 30 minutes ago, our students were sheltered where they were, and more than 500 of them were sheltered in buildings throughout grounds, studying in libraries, classrooms, and other places. And they've cooperated with the directive that they received, and we're very grateful for that as well. And fortunately, we've been able to lift that alert. As President Ryan mentioned, we, thanks to the partnership of our City of Charlottesville partners, County of Albemarle, the Virginia State Police, our federal partners, the ATF, the FBI, the U.S. Marshal Service, a host of law enforcement officers who came to us to help secure a scene, search for evidence, process that scene for evidence, and now secure our grounds. While we did the exhaustive search to the very best of our abilities, we're reasonably confident that the person responsible for this tragedy is not on our grounds. But make no mistake about it, we will find him wherever he is and bring the resources of every federal law enforcement agency in this nation who has the capacity and the ability to look for him beyond our boundaries. And if he's in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the people that are standing behind me will engage in that search as well. The bodies of Devin and Deshaun, as President Ryan indicated, were found inside a charter bus where they had been for the day, enjoying a school activity, having a meal together, and coming back to our grounds. And someone amongst them chose to do an act of violence. And we found them dead beside that bus. And for hours, we had to process a crime scene. And I know I don't have to tell you how difficult that is for a family to not know, to see email chatter and social media. And boy, we did our best to try to keep up with that, to let people know what we knew and what we were trying to do. And hopefully now that we've caught up, we'll be able to continue to share that message to the many families across this world that have young people here at our university, to let them know that their young people are okay and that there will be people here for many days to take care of them. This strong law enforcement presence that you've probably seen on our grounds for the last several hours, represented by the agencies behind me, will stay here until we're reasonably comfortable that this person is in custody. Well, in addition to our local, state, and federal partners, with the talents and the skills of our colleagues in the medical center who have been with us throughout this journey and will remain with us for the 2 students that we have there seeking treatment. We deeply appreciate their efforts as well. we've secured arrest warrants for Mr. Jones. We've charged him with 3 counts of second-degree murder, and we charged him with 3 counts of using a handgun in the commission of a felony. Those facts and circumstances were reviewed by a judicial officer, and those are the charges that were proffered. There comes a point in time that those charges need to be amended, and certain facts and circumstances arise that will cause us to do that. We'll do that. But we'll do that through the advice and counsel of our Commonwealth's attorney, and to the extent federal law applies, the Office of the United States Attorney for the Western District. Mr. Kavanaugh is present here today. I want to give you a description of Mr. Jones. He is described as a black male. He was born on November the 19th, 1999. When he was last seen on our grounds, he was wearing a burgundy jacket, blue jeans, and red shoes. We believe he's driving a black SUV bearing Virginia registration. T as in Tango, W as in Whiskey, X as in X-ray, 3580. TWX 3580. We implore anyone who's on our highways and byways who should see that vehicle bearing that tag to call 911 immediately and report his whereabouts. Try to keep that vehicle in sight. We believe perhaps that Mr. Jones remains armed and he's to be considered dangerous and treated accordingly. I want to share some information with you because I want to be transparent with you. I want you to know what I know to the extent I can share that information this afternoon. Mr. Jones came to the attention of the University of Virginia's threat assessment team in the fall of 2022. In fact, in September of 2022, our Office of Student Affairs reported to the multidisciplinary threat assessment team that Mr. Jones, they received information that Mr. Jones had made a comment about possessing a gun to a person that was unaffiliated with the university. In other words, a third party. That reporting person, again, unaffiliated with the university, to the best of our knowledge, never saw the gun. The comment about Mr. Jones owning a gun was not made in conjunction with any threats. The Office of Student Affairs followed up with the reporting person and made efforts to contact Mr. Jones. In fact, they followed up with Mr. Jones' roommate, who did not report seeing the presence of a weapon. Pardon me. Thank you, Captain. We just received information the suspect is in custody. Just need a moment to thank God. Breathe a sigh of relief. Mr. Jones also had come to the attention of our threat assessment team because he was involved in a hazing investigation of some sort. I don't know the facts and circumstances of that investigation. I know that it was eventually closed due to witnesses that would not cooperate with the process. But through the course of the threat assessment team's investigation, we learned of a prior criminal incident involving a concealed weapon violation that occurred outside the city of Charlottesville in February of 2021. What's interesting about that case is he's required as a student at the University of Virginia to report that, and he never did, and so the university has taken appropriate administrative charges through the university's Judiciary Council, and that matter is still pending adjudication. Thought it important to share that information with you, to let you know that he had been called to our attention, and to answer any questions you might have about that. I want you to hear that. I want you to hear that from me. not hear it from someone else. So I'll stop there, and we'll take any questions that you might have.
I'll call him out. We have time for a couple of questions, Major.
Chief or President, can you discuss where the field trip was going, the affiliation of the people that were on that bus and on that field trip, and if the suspect was part of that trip or stepped onto the bus?
Thank you for the question. The information we have at this time is that the field trip was associated with a class, and the individuals that have been named were part of that trip to see a play. That is, to see a play associated with the class. So it was a class field trip.
Was the suspect in that class, or do we know?
I do not have those details.
Do you know what class it was?
I do not.
Do you know what play it was?
I'm sorry.
Do you know what play it was?
I do not. We're seeking out all of that information. As you can imagine, the students are quite traumatized by the tragic event.
Was the play in Washington, D.C.?
I do not have the exact location. We are finalizing all of that.
Thank you.
The three victims who died were football players, the two who were injured.
So
were
the
football
the
players.
film was in Washington, D.C.
Where and how was the suspect apprehended?
I have not been shared that information yet, and it will come a point in time when we will share that information. I'm sure that now is not the most.
We'll provide a statement as soon as we can on that. Yeah.
Were the two
Go ahead.
victims football players as well, the ones who are injured? Because you mentioned the three who had died were football players.
We're not releasing information about the patients who are still in the hospital at this time.
Go ahead, Randy, back left.
Yeah, Chief, you mentioned these been previously brought to your attention. Did your office ever make contact, or the Student Assessment Office ever make contact with Jones prior to this?
I can't speak for Student Affairs. The University Police Department had no contact with this. The University Police Department is one of many people that's on that multidisciplinary threat assessment team, and we provide some of the background with respect to individuals that come before that team, but to my knowledge, we did not have any contact with Mr. Jones with regard to that incident.
Is there a ballpark figure on how many people were on the bus?
My understanding is ballpark about 25.
And can you tell us how he got away and how he was apprehended? Was he walking? Was he driving?
Don't know how he got away or how it was that he fled the scene, and I don't have information with respect to how
We'll
he
have
got
more.
away.
Go ahead, Sam.
Chief, any details you can share about what what led to the shooting? Have the other folks on the bus been interviewed?
We're in the process of doing that now.
So no details you can share at this time about whether there was a conflict or
Yeah, not at this
caused that
time.
fire?
Go ahead.
Do we know how?
When and where did the third victim die if the two were found dead on the bus?
Third victim was transported to the medical center and died.
Chief, go ahead.
Do we know Mr. Jones's status? At one point, he was on the football team. He was still a student here as of this morning. Was he still affiliated with the football team?
He was still a student, but to my knowledge, he's no longer on the football team. He hadn't been on the team over a year.
Are we able to release if the two injured victims were students?
The two other victims were students.
Chief Longo. For two more.
Chief Longo.
Go ahead in the long cut.
Did the students know at all who the suspect prior to this? Was there any relationship?
I don't know to what extent he had a relationship with him.
So they knew each other at least.
I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, final question, Ryan.
Chief Longo, you personally have been involved with so many tragedies that have happened here in Charlottesville. If you could just talk, I don't know if you've been able to process those feelings at all, what this community has been through over the past decade or so, and how this impacts all of that right now.
I don't know that I've really had time to process that to the extent that you speak of. I can tell you that the people that are standing behind me now, it speaks for itself, how we get through these things. These agencies that are represented here were on these grounds very quickly. I'll try to do better next time. That's all I have for right now. We can't do this alone, and we obviously haven't.
Can you say whether the suspect was found on campus or off off campus at least?
Or where he was in custody, currently, or who brought him to custody?
Well, I can tell you to the best of my knowledge, he was not found on campus. I cannot tell you where he was located or where he was taken into custody or where he's located now.
Did state police take him into custody? We'll have more information on that. Thank you all very much. We've got to get back to.
Is there a motive? Do we know anything about a motive?
We'll have more information as we have it. Thank you all very much for coming today.
So there you have it.